Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gents. My name is Miguel, or you could call me Mighty Migs. And today's episode of Passion for Acting podcast, we've got none other than David John Murdoch. How are you, good sir?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you. Uh,
Likewise, always a pleasure, good sir. But before we go further ahead, I'd like to mention that the sponsor of this episode is actually Sydney Actors Association. So if you're an actor looking to sharpen their craft in any way, shape, or form, just visit the Instagram's page in the description box below and tell them that Mighty Migs and even David sent you. And our good friend and mentor in this industry, Sam Haft, could actually look after you very well, so we can guarantee it. But without further ado, give us an introduction about yourself, Dave.
yeah, thank you. Great to join you. I've seen many episodes of your and on your YouTube channel. Great to be here. So yeah, I'm an actor. I'm in Sydney. I'm out here in the west, out at Ludnam, Leppington. Um, and yeah, I've been an actor since I was at uni. Um, and it's just been a journey that took me a while to get on. But now that I'm on it, it's one of those things that I am passionate about. Um, yeah, so I'm just making my way, auditioning, making contacts, and enjoying the ride.
Awesome, awesome. And that's why when you said passion, this is the Passion for Acting podcast. So, and that's why I saw that and I'm thinking, no, I got to have David here sometime soon in this podcast. So it's finally made it happen. So, better late than never. But, yeah, so anyway, so what actually inspired you to become an actor yourself, huh?
I I remember when I was a boy, and I remember watching films and TV, and I think there was that realization that it wasn't real life, that these pictures and sounds, like there were people actually doing it and making it work. And I found that fascinating. And I became interested in drama at school. And I think as I got older, it became more about being affected by a performance or being touched by it or being made to laugh. And I always thought, I can do that. I want to do that. And I think people don't often see themselves in the industry or doing that kind of role because they think it's unattainable or it's something that only, rich people do with connections. And it's really not. So when I had the opportunity in my life where I could do it, I thought, I'm going to do it now or I'll never do it.
I guess, yeah, it all takes initiative, right? Because when you have that passion, it's nothing without action. And, you said you started when you started going to uni, so did you study there in uni or how did it start from you for you?
No, I actually did something completely different at uni. I did history and international relations. So I did a lot of humanities subjects, but I guess it was just because I'd worked in for corporations and for businesses. It was just being in that kind of environment. It showed me my creative side
Oh, awesome.
um, and led me to live a kind of life where I feel like I'm being my authentic self.
Mhm.
Um, and then opportunities arose from there. I just started to get to know some filmmakers. I got started doing courses, got myself an agent, and began to build a network. Um, so what I studied at uni, it wasn't really anything to do with acting or television or the film industry, but it just sort of allowed me to open my eyes to being creative and getting out of the rat race and yeah, being able to see the light of what I really wanted to do. Um,
That's right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think you've been bitten by that acting bug as well. And once you've been bitten by that acting bug, you cannot cure it and you don't want to cure it. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just about not giving up,
Mm.
and staying in it. You might not get a particular role, or it might not go the way that you think it should go, or the way that you would like it to go initially. But if you keep doing it, um, then you will get some sort of satisfaction out of it.
Of
Um,
course, yeah, of course.
and it's not necessarily to be famous or to be what uh, people's idea of being an actor is. I think, generally speaking, a lot of actors are introverted, shy people, so who don't really like the limelight. So I don't think it is what people think it is going to be. And I've known people who it surprised me when they have sort of given up, or they're not doing it anymore because they haven't reached a certain point at any particular time, or they've given themselves a date, or by the time I'm 35 and if I haven't reached this, then I'm not going to do it anymore. And that always is a bit strange to me, because you and I were having a discussion before about life and how busy we are, but if there's always some sort of connection, or if you're reading scripts or going to plays or going to classes, um, you're an actor.
Amen. Professional or amateur, doesn't matter. You're an actor.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean because, like, let's start off with when you said that, actors are actually introverted people. I mean, this might surprise you, but I am an introvert as well. I'm a pretty reserved guy, so I can relate to you in that context. I generally don't like attention outside of my professions as an actor and personal trainer, but at the same time, I like my private space. But it's just something about us actors that are just we are weird people, and I'm proud to admit that. Yeah, I'm proud to admit that. Yeah, and it's just my eccentricity as a person that makes me a passionate actor. That's just me speaking. I don't know if you feel about that yourself, but each to their own. But that's just the way I am. Because my eccentricity as an actor is what makes me passionate about it. I just want to keep going. And going back to that topic where you said that you've known people who've actually given up as well. I've known heaps of people who've given up as an actor because they tell me something like, "Oh, I've lost the passion, but you know what? If you had the passion for it, you will not give up." And that's the way I look at things, yeah. Because if you're passionate, I mean, which I know you are, you will not give up. Because this is a journey, and this for you is not only a profession, but it's actually a hobby. It's like something you want to do in your spare time, because this is what makes you have therapy. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think so, and I think you get inspired by other people who feel the same way, or as I mentioned before, through performances, and what people are able to convey through those performances. So I think there's always like a development there. In with being an actor, there's never going to be a stage where you're done,
Mhm.
because you're always going to build upon layer upon layer of what you have done before, or what you have learned. And as many different personalities and different people there are out there, you're never going to be finished. You're never going to get to, there's not going to be a stage where you stop seeing
Of
different
course.
people in life. So there's always going to be new roles to do, and new perspectives to to learn. And I think, getting back to being introverted and people who are thinkers, you're not going to stop thinking, and you're not going to
Yeah.
stop, having your ideas put into your head by what you see around you. So it's an ongoing journey. Um,
Yeah, yeah, imagination, right? So when you're imagining things, like for me, when I'm this morning, when I was meal prepping, when I was cleaning my room and just doing my laundry before lunch, I'm envisioning a couple of things. And there was a couple of times where, actually a few times, where I was just practicing my script for tomorrow's class at Sydney Actors Association. So, it's something that it's in our blood, it's in our DNA. And like what you said, like there's always something to do, whether you find that thing, that audition or that gig from your agent or Star Now or one of those Facebook groups, there's always something to do, So it's just networking, because In another slightly different topic, I've known actors who are still actors, but they've burnt a few bridges. And it's funny how, like, after they burnt a few bridges, the sad thing is they're not getting as much work anymore. They're not getting referrals anymore because, like, it's just like any other job out there. If you have a bad reputation, people will hear it, and people will hear the directors. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you've met people like that before as well who burnt bridges in the industry.
Yeah, and it surprises me. I think that's got to do with being just polite,
Mhm.
and maybe people's attitude on set, or being interested in a whole project rather than your little part of it, and feeling slighted because you're not getting um, you know attention. And I've been on some really good sets where there's been uh, great atmosphere, where everyone's inclusive, and I've also been on sets where there may be tension between people that you're not aware of, and you can feel it. Um, but certainly, it's a type of industry where if you're a diva, or you've uh, made a spectacle of yourself, or you've made unreasonable demands, or you've let your ego trip you up along the way. Yeah, I mean that's a killer, because people talk, and you know yourself that you come across the same people time and time and again, that you may not know are going to be involved in the next project that you're on.
That's right. I mean,
Uh,
you may be ideal for that role, and then all of a sudden the director hears from somebody from the crew or one of the actors, "Oh, don't work with him or her because this and this happened." And, he or she made a drama or like a
yeah,
spectacle, and they became divas themselves. So, and the sad part is that it may or may not be true what those other people are saying, but they'll believe that person because they know that person personally compared to the other person who's potentially going to get the role. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and it's sad though because when that happens, but I guess I ain't perfect either. I wouldn't say I've burnt bridges in this industry, but when I used to work hospitality, yes, I've burnt some burnt bridges, but it's a different industry. But you just never know that people who I've burnt bridges with, know in the film industry as well. So people talk in general, but at the same time, we can only just focus on our own path. And the good thing about being inclusive is that just even though, like what you said, like you may have a small role in a feature film or short film, but you're still part of the story. So you may not need to click with everybody, but just being polite, being courteous, that's all that matters.
yeah.
Because yeah, I think that's the way to look at it. Yeah.
I I think it's about being just a decent person, and to realize that you've signed up for whatever you've signed up for. So you might be waiting around on set for 6 hours because they're trying to get lighting right, or they're trying to set up a shot, or if they've had a new idea that they're putting into the scene that they're filming before your scene. Like, you might sit around there for 6 or 8 hours. It might be cold, it might be it might be wet, or it might be, but that's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
And it's just, be mindful that this is part of someone's passion. It's part of someone's project, and you're there to do a job, um,
Yeah.
just like any other job. So I mean, it's just be decent.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Look, before we go to the next question, you know what? This may surprise you. I mean, at first it did, but no, Jason Statham is apparently very good to work with because he comes across this egotistical alpha male who, of course, like, the alpha male stereotypes aren't necessarily completely true. To an extent it is, but, apparently, like, he's just one of those guys who are reliable and he listens carefully and he asks a lot of questions. And that's why he keeps getting gigs. He may not be the best most well-rounded actor, but in return for his, the way he's actually easy to work with, he's getting a lot of success out of it. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So yeah, that's one lesson that we can take from it because
mm,
acting skills can go a long way, but marketability is based on how we, respect ourselves and respect other people around us, on set and whatnot. Yeah. but it is what it
absolutely.
is. Yeah, yeah.
And just on the other side of the coin, one of my favorite actors is Christian Bale,
Oh yes.
and he's got a reputation of being quite difficult on set, and and not always being the nicest guy. But I think sometimes for him, it's born out of professionalism and trying to do a good job, and seeing other people around him that aren't necessarily that don't necessarily have the same commitment uh, that he does.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I can't justify it for his actions because I've heard a few stories, but that's his
Yeah.
business, But he's still putting butts on seats and selling tickets in the box office, so he's doing something right, in my opinion. So it is what it is. Okay, so the next question here, good sir. So, what was it like playing as Officer Liam in No Man's Land?
So that was probably the biggest role that I had ever had to that date.
Mhm.
To be cast in an international feature film with such a significant role, it was a big deal for me. I remember the audition was done online. Uh, I read the lines. I did it again, and the director and the producer they had the conversation right in front of me, like how he looks, his expressions. Like it was all completely stripped bare. Like I heard all of the feedback as it happened, and I thought, oh god, I don't know how this is going to go. And they told me right then, yep, that was great. We want you on board. Um, so there was three locations for that film here in Sydney, in New York, and in Dhaka in Bangladesh.
Oh, wow.
So when the production came here to Sydney, I was in a lead supporting role, basically to move the story along for the leads. So it was a responsibility. It was a big responsibility. But it was a great experience being on that set uh, with the caliber of the crew, of the other actors. So it was also quite humbling, and it was a big responsibility for me.
Wow.
And yeah,
So
I
did you
was
get to go to the US as well? And did you get to go to Dhaka, or you just needed
no,
you?
I didn't. No, no, solely in Sydney for me. Basically, it was the story of a migrant who had met an Australian partner and trying to get him here to Australia. And without giving away any spoilers, it doesn't end well for him. Um, and I was a police officer investigating his disappearance
Yeah.
in Sydney once he actually got here. But I did go to the premiere here in Sydney. Got to see it on the big screen. Get to see feedback of some of the first people who got to see it in the world. That was great. I remember sitting in the cinema and people didn't realize that I was in the cast. So,
Yep.
and of course you don't. They're not going to know who you are. You're just someone else sitting next to them in at the movies, and then when the lights come up and you're getting your jacket together and you're getting your stuff together, they turn around and they go, it's Officer Liam." I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." Uh, there was a a Q&A session afterwards to speak about the role. But yeah, that was a great experience, and certainly the type of experience that we at our level want to get.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like it's actually very international. Is it an American production or is it an Aussie one?
No, it was a production done for director Mustafa Faruqi, who is one of the biggest directors in the subcontinent in India and Bangladesh.
Oh,
So he's done films all over the world. He's made films in England, in the US, and in his home country as well. And this film was the third in a series of films that he has done.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, he's won a lot of awards, and he's still making stuff. He does documentaries as well. So it's been good to be able to follow his career, having done so. And there's a contact that I've made for life as well. One that's quite valuable.
Awesome. And obviously, he was fun to work with, easy to work with, or what?
He was very gentle. Whenever he gave any direction, it was done with kindness. Everything he said had value, and I just took on board everything that he told me, and trusted him implicitly. Yeah,
Oh, that's good. That's
great to
good.
work with.
Yeah. That's amazing, because like in that earlier in this episode, we're just talking about like how directors or producers could actually just make or break somebody's career. I mean, he's making your career, it sounds like. So that's a connection to have in life, and for you to have that in your IMDb or in your actor's resume, that's actually something prestigious. And it may not seem like that to you. I could be wrong, but from an outside perspective, it's just like, hey, you know what? You made a it's almost like you made a connection to Mel Gibson, or like who else is a good director? J.J. Abrams, or even Christopher Nolan. So that's the way I look at things, because like what you said, he was actually one of the more popular or more successful directors from the subcontinent, like in India and Bangladesh. So you never know who knows that he could refer you to other people. So yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
that's exactly right. Which goes back to what we were talking about before about being decent and showing up.
Yeah, exactly. Because see, even like I've worked with a couple of directors before who I didn't like their disorganization and whatnot, but I just showed up and just enthusiastically worked, because
Mhm.
I know that a lot of people would dying, well not dying literally, but like would do anything to be in our position, and that okay, I'd work with them because it's better than nothing, So you never know, and because of that, like I said, just being gentle and being kind and courteous. Um, I still, keep in contact with those directors who I wasn't actually impressed with in the past, but they talked me up, and talked them up all of a sudden, because it's just like, because maybe right now they've become better directors, because it's been more than 5 or 10 years since I've last worked with them. I'm pretty sure they've become better directors now, so
Mm.
you just never know. But obviously, I'm not going to name names because I'd be blacklisted. But
Yeah,
but like I bet you back then as well, like people would have been saying something similar, like, because remember, inexperience can, being inexperienced in something, you obviously don't look good. I mean, if I'm inexperienced in acting in the beginning of my career, I wouldn't be as professional or as sharp or as confident as I am now. Like, you have a lot of experience as well since your uni days. So you're a lot sharper than you were back then. You're a lot more professional back then. You're a lot more mature than you were back then. So yeah, so that's a good thing. That's a good, mindset and habit to have. So kudos to you, Police Officer Liam. Is it Constable Liam, or just Police Officer?
I think it's just officer. I
Officer.
don't think. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I was actually given a specific. I think it's more of a generic title. It was funny. It was I. I was the investigator, and actually in the film there was an officer who was under my character's
Hmm.
supervision, and we figured out that the uniform that he was wearing, it actually meant that he was actually superior to me in the ranking. You know how they have like they name the epaulets,
Yep.
which give away the rankings, and it was like, hang on, I think you actually outrank me.
All right. Oh wow, that's interesting, eh? Because I'm not a cop in real life. You're not a cop in real life, so we don't really. I mean, you'd probably know better than I would, but the rankings there in
Yeah,
this part of the shoulders gives away like So
yeah.
sorry, sir. So it is what it is. Because like I'm similar to you. I usually play a cop or a soldier, so, and how it feels. Because and chicks dig it as well. So yeah. But anyway, Constable, I mean, Police Officer Lee, let's move on to the next question. So, what was it like being on the set of Sasha's Game and playing as David McPhail, not David John Murdoch?
No. So Sasha's Game came about. I actually auditioned for a role in that film, and I didn't get it.
Mm.
um, and that happens from time to time to the best of us. Uh, but then I was contacted and asked if I wanted to play a different role, um, and I did it. I accepted the role. Um, I had an idea of what it was about, but I didn't know how important a film it was going to be. Basically, it's a true story. It was based on a book called I Am Sasha by an author called Anne Seltzer, and it tells the story of her grandfather in World War II. He was a Ukrainian boy from a Jewish family at a time where Ukraine was occupied partially by the Nazis.
Oh.
And the role I play is of a Ukrainian collaborating. Um, and Sasha was a boy who they were trying to protect from the Nazis. So it happened incrementally where they targeted like Jewish men, and then it became Jewish teenage boys, and eventually where they were targeting just Jews in general. So this is a story of Sasha's family trying to protect him um, from the Nazis, basically. And the way that they do that is that they have him grow his hair and make him wear girls' clothes because girls weren't being targeted at that time. So it was a true story. The author got in contact with the director producer called Lexi Gordon and DOP, who's wonderful, Chris Ross, and asked them to make this film. Um, so yeah, I played one of the soldiers who come into the town, who pops in and out of the film throughout the film in different scenes. It was a great set. It was very professional. They were all young crew. Lexi is in her 20s, and I actually was working on another project. Uh, and I was talking to some of the sound guys. One of them was a friend of mine. They're just saying, "Oh, what have you got coming up?" And I told them about this, and they said, "We're working on that, and that's going to be a great production."
Wow.
Um, So I remember there was one. We did some filming here in Western Sydney at an old colonial house, and then I went down to Goulburn, where they had like this old stone, the type of house that you don't really see much in Australia, really. But it was quite a big house, like not a mansion, but a big house with, I guess, period style features. So it did look like it could have been in Europe in the 1940s. In the middle of winter, it was like July, and I remember driving down there at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was like -5 degrees. And I think it's going to be worth it.
Inland, that's why, yeah. Because when you said Western Sydney, I mean, of course, it's inland. Most of Western Sydney is inland, and it'll be hotter during summer. It'll be colder during
It
winter.
was
Yeah.
freezing.
Okay.
Um, but obviously, there's a powerful message in that film, and it was a great set to be on, and you sitting around having a laugh, having a joke with the other cast or the other crew, and then we were kind of jolted because they brought in an intimacy coordinator, um, and she began to talk if we had any issues that we need to work through with the film, if there was anything that we were finding a bit, confronting or triggering, and it was like, "Oh, no, we've got this. It's all good." And then there was one particular scene which we did, and it was quite confronting. Um, and only part of it, I believe, made the film. It was quite confronting, and we were okay. But I thought, you know what, I can see why they have someone like that on set to maybe offer support. Um, and of course, because we were dealing with firearms, there had to be a trained armorer on there to make sure that we were handling weapons correctly because they were actual real weapons. Um, But that was one of the best. That was one of the best experiences I've actually ever had on set, because
Mm.
the people who made it really cared about the story that needed to be told. It was based on a true story, so there's an obligation there to make sure that you do it right and do justice to what it was, because it was important.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good thing about like the firearms, safety advisor, because I'm not going to get into much of Brandon Lee's death, but the day he died was the day when the firearms advisor was actually absent on set. So
Right.
Brandon Lee talking about Bruce Lee's son. So yeah, so that's how that tragedy actually unfolded. Yeah, but at the same time, because whatever needs whatever it takes to actually make the film as authentically as thrilling as possible. I mean, it's good to have that person to make sure that everybody's okay with it. Because, I mean, was anybody actually did anybody have any objections to it when you were there, or was everybody okay with it?
No, everyone was fine. And of course, there was nothing actually being fired. There's no danger of like a rust moment happening on that set. But they were real firearms. They were disabled, and we did have to actually shoot someone in that scene. But of course, it was not actually someone being shot or actual guns going off. But even in those circumstances, they were real weapons, and you do have to have professionals there in those circumstances. But no, I think everyone on that set was fine. But there's always you don't know what people's backgrounds are. You don't know what if anyone on set did actually have someone perish in the Holocaust, or you know you just don't know what people's experiences are. So there's that resources there for them as actors, and anyone who was on the set that may have been affected. There's a story. I think it might have been like Mickey Rooney or one of the old golden age of Hollywood actors as a child just wasn't. We're talking about like back in the 1930s. He just wasn't getting it. He just wasn't sad enough. And what they did to this poor young boy to make him cry, they pretty much dragged a puppy out the back and fired a gun into the air, so that this boy would cry for cry for the film. And
Oh,
yeah, it's like, could you imagine doing that now? Like where we nowadays we are mindful of people's feelings, or people getting hurt, or people being traumatized on a set. It's just a film. We're just playing. It's not worth it. Um,
animal safety and child safety are actually one of the main priorities now in pretty much every set that I've been in. So, which is a good thing, right? Because animal safety, child safety,
yeah.
we can't leave them vulnerable, So, but I'm assuming that that dog didn't get harmed in real life, did it?
No, the dog wasn't harmed in real life. No, he just sort of fired the gun into the air, and uh,
Anyway, yeah, because I can imagine how, like, the dog lovers or animal lovers would be like, oh my gosh, but each to their own. Because I'm not really an animal person myself, but I can still empathize with them because, it's not good for a dog to get hurt just for the sake of filming a movie or whatnot, even any kids getting hurt because, but at the same time, the good thing about that is that the dog is unharmed, because we can only imagine what it was like being in Mickey Rooney's situation there, where he doesn't know how to cry,
yeah,
and yeah. So for me, for our upcoming project, I've had to ask advice from one of my other acting coaches, Daniel Sasson, and how to cry, like and how your character will be. Actually, let's talk about that afterwards because it's probably going to give it away too much.
yeah.
It's gonna
Let's not no spoiler
yeah,
alert.
no spoiler alert. Yeah. So, yeah, going back to that, yeah. So I'm glad that no animals and children were harmed in that Mickey Rooney thing. So yeah. But did you ever used to watch Simpsons as well, like growing up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Remember that episode where he was in the radioactive one? Mickey Rooney! It's like Jiminy Jellikers, Jiminy Jellikers. And they're like, oh, we're shutting down production. And it was like, and because we got a new Fallout Boy here. We all thought it was going to be Bart. Like, he pointed to Bart, but it ended up being him. Jiminy Jellikers, Jiminy Jellikers. Yeah. Oh, Jiminy Jellikers. Anyway, radioactive man. Those are the days, huh? But yeah. So let's go into your next question, there, Mr. Murdoch. What would your dream role and or project be, and why? So take some time because we've got a lot of time. Take. I mean, it's up to you how you want to answer this, but
Look,
you,
I
you don't
like.
have to have just one answer. You don't have to just have one answer in this one here because
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to have one particular answer, but I like the idea of important people, important in important roles, being complete idiots. I like not so much the Ricky Gervais in The Office, but just I actually played a government minister who was a minister for the environment, and this guy was a complete idiot. And I actually there was a member of parliament um, who I watched, and I thought I really don't like this guy. This guy's a douchebag. I kind of got some of his mannerisms and his try to get some of his voice happening. Um, and I just created this really idiotic character, like someone who's just a complete buffoon. I don't mind making myself look like an idiot or stupid for a laugh.
yeah.
Um, I don't know if you're familiar with Veep with Julia Louis Dreyfus, who was formerly Elaine in Seinfeld. There's a show that she has done for HBO a few years ago where she plays the Vice President of the United States. And she's horrible. She's just a horrible, stupid person.
Oh, right. So that's the
um,
comedy about it. That's the comedy about it, is that she's a stupid idiot as a vice.
yeah, it's just everything goes wrong. She just is just in it for herself. And I guess I like that kind of comedy, and I think I would be good in that kind of role. Um, I also like, and I guess that you might have seen me do this kind of stuff at SAA, but I like for example, like one of my favorite actors is Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
I loved him in Apocalypse Now. He played an evil president of the United States, and in an adaptation of the Stephen King film, the Stephen King book, The Dead Zone, and he is more recently known for The West Wing, which is one of my favorite shows. And if you look at the actors that are in that show, where they play sort of government officials in high stakes moments where there's a crisis, or you see them appear over and over again in similar shows, like in House of Cards or some, you know, I'm trying to think of like Hunt for the Red October, or you see these kind of people appear in the same roles over and over again. I think I'd be quite good at that too. But I definitely like comedy. Um, so anything that could maybe combine those two types of scenarios, I think that's my sweet spot. But I also like, and again, I know we said we weren't going to speak about it, but I also like being able to sort of let loose, and the kind of role that you've got me playing. I love that too. I, I,
Oh,
I love that as well. Um, where I can just kind of blow my stack.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is being recorded, but I'll say it anyway. But I remember when we were rehearsing here one time, me, Brianna, and Hassan were here in this office, and just like we're talking about how you were portraying it, we loved it. How you like, you anyway. I'm not gonna say anything because it's
Yeah.
gonna be spoiler alert. But when you're chucking a tantrum and you're threatening my character, she was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm scared of him." It's like, yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
the thing.
what I remember about that is like maybe after the second or third go, you're saying to me like now you can actually really let it go. You can actually really go there. You can go as big as you like. I'm thinking, no, it's
That's the fun bit, like what you said, just letting loose, because
yeah,
it's gentlemen like yourselves who actually play intimidating characters. Like for example, like what's his name, Heath Ledger is the Joker. Apparently, in real life, he's a very quiet, introverted gentleman. But when he played the Joker, because people were saying, "How can he play the Joker? He's such a nice guy." But then he proved most of us wrong, including
yeah.
myself. And in my opinion, he's the greatest villain of all time. But it's subjective in that topic. But you may or may not think that way about being the greatest villain of all time. But for me, he is.
Well, Sam Haft talks about this quite a lot, and he will often say some of the most placid, nicest, gentle people can play the best villains.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I definitely think
Well,
that's true.
do you remember? You've seen Once Were Warriors, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite drama movie of all time because I remember you using that, reading the book and watching the movie for my Year 12 essay in for my HSC, right? And I've never been so shook up after watching a film the first time because I was 17, turning 18, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I didn't know what to think afterwards, and the good thing was it was just later in the not later in the evening, earlier in the evening that I watched that. But if I watched that right before I went to bed, I probably would have had a hard time falling asleep. But my point is that Jake the Muss in real life is obviously played by Tamuera Morrison, and
Hmm.
he's a gentleman, and in real life he's actually a thing. He's actually a GP, a doctor,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and that's his very first role. He said he's always wanted to get into acting, but then he bumped into the director, and he said the director said that this guy's got the right look that I'm looking for Jake the Muss. But he said, "Oh, I'm flattered, but you know what? I'd love to get into acting, but I don't have any experience. That's okay. We can coach you." And kaboom! I mean, he was pretty much the highlight of the whole movie. I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you think?
I think it's a really tough film to watch. But I've seen that film, I think, maybe about five times.
Mhm.
I've watched it again fairly recently, maybe about 18 months ago or 2 years ago. Um, and there's just some scenes that he does, particularly in the bar, in the pub, where it's like you wouldn't you wouldn't mess with him. Like you wouldn't even mess with him. Like if he bumped into you and you spilt your drinks all over you, you'd be apologising to him. Like,
That's right.
so I mean, I didn't know that he was like a GP in another life. It just shows you how great an actor he is. I remember when he popped up in Star Wars, I was like, is that is that him? Um, but yeah, no, that's definitely a tough film to watch, and I think it's having because that I think it's like 25 years old now. That film, at least.
I
Um,
think 1994, and
right.
let's double check. Yes, I think it's in 1994.
Mm.
Let's double check that. So hopefully, let's just double check that. So let's go to google.com. Okay, so let's go watch Once Were Warriors. Huh? 1994, it was released. So it would have been filmed at around 1993 or maybe not, late 1992. So yeah, but yeah, so it was a low budget feature film, but it was actually very well done because the book is actually slightly different. I don't know if you read the book, but there's some differences there. So just read it for yourself, watch it, read it for yourself when you can. From what I can remember, there's some differences there. Yeah, it's even more powerful than the movie because you imagine things when you're reading the book. So
Right.
yeah.
Well,
Mm.
I know that the film has aged quite well, like having it been that old, because places like that where they live, they still exist. The same social problems that they have still
Mm.
exist. So a lot of the issues that the film and the book explore, they are still around. So it's definitely like relatable to a lot of people. And I mean, Yeah, I mean, it is a tough film to watch. I think after you've seen it a few times, you know when the bad parts are coming up. You know everything. But there's some. It's a funny film too. There's actually some really funny moments in that film. Um, like with the kids just being kids. Like there's some nice tender moments in that film as well. So to know that it was kind of a low budget film in the mid '90s coming out of New Zealand, yeah, it just speaks to the story that's being told and the actors who were in it. Have you ever seen the sequel?
I have, but I didn't like it as much, though. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I just didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Um, I watched it because I was interested just to see where the characters were and what was going on. Yeah, not as impactful, but I don't know if that what you were talking about with the book, if that made up part of what happened, like in the second movie.
I haven't read the second movie's book. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But I remember reading the book, like, 'cause, my drama teacher back in for year 11 and 12 was Miss Johnson. So I didn't know what book to choose, but she knew me well enough. I think you're gonna like this. She told me she gave me a copy of Once for Worries. Do me a favor, read this before you watch the movie. But I did it the other way around. So I'm thinking it's gonna be the same. But when I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like I can't even eat dinner because we're just about to start dinner. So yeah, my family and I back then. This has been late, no, was it early 2000s actually. So yeah, and yeah, my parents were just asking me, "Are you okay?" It's like, yeah, just watch Once for Warriors. Oh, it can't be that bad, son. It's just a movie. You have to just watch it and you'll see. And then they saw what I meant. Even my brothers were like, shit. So, yeah, it is what it is. But when I read the book and I'm thinking, okay, I thought it was like this. Okay, I'm gonna read the book. This is what the book says. I'm gonna read the book because this is what the book says. Yeah, so you have to go by that because remember how like sometimes when they adapt a book, a movie out of a book, they change a few things just to suit the agenda, just to suit the marketability, or
Yeah,
just yeah. So it's just I don't know. But like I said, this was back more than 20 years ago. I could be wrong, but from what I can remember, there's some slight differences, within the book and the movie. But it was more powerful reading the book. Just like, I don't read books in general, but reading back then, I was just, what, I had to write an essay on it. So I remember it was like 1,000 words essay. I did well actually. So yeah, did you take drama back in high school as well?
no, not in high school. I did a drama. I took drama in there was a lot of drama in primary school, and there was opportunities to do drama in high school, but it wasn't a subject that was actually offered there. So if there was going to be drama in terms of a structured lesson, that would sort of be encompassed into an English drama, but if an English lesson, but there was always opportunities to do sort of extracurricular stuff. Um, so yeah, I did that in high school. So yeah, which is a shame. I'm not sure how prevalent drama is in high school at the moment, but I think it would be beneficial
I think so
to
too. I
everyone.
think so too. Yeah. I don't think because even going back in the 90s. I mean, I was in high school in the late 90s and early 2000s. I could be wrong, but I don't think that every single school offered drama. So maybe they did. There were specific performing arts high schools that or colleges that actually did that. But a few people who I come in contact with, like just around this area, or apparently they didn't have drama as a subject. Maybe it's just the school. So yeah, that's just. But anyway, I mean, glad that we caught the acting bug,
Mm.
and I'm glad that we both are passionate actors. I can see you and I actually going further than what we're in right now anyway. So that's the way I see things. Yeah, because it's I'm looking forward to working with you. But what you call it? Do you have any words of encouragement before we conclude? I'm talking about words of encouragement to our fellow actors who are going through
Yeah,
discouragement at the moment.
I would say don't get discouraged, don't give up. Um, Surround yourself with people who have the same values as you, who encourage you, uh, and who can help you. Not just in a way of contact, but in a way of keeping you talking and creative. But I guess most of all is if you get the opportunity to be part of a community. Like
Of course. Yeah.
if you don't, you might not necessarily want to work in on stage or in the theatre, but go see a show, go see a musical, go get out of your comfort zone as well and see what other people are doing,
Mm,
because it can only inspire you
that's
and
right.
enjoy other people's successes as well.
That
Um,
is inspiring.
and yeah, enjoy other people's successes and yeah, just be a decent person.
Yeah, we're all human, eh? No matter how famous or successful we are, none of us are actually immune to tragedy or setbacks. Yeah,
Yeah, they
so
help you.
amen to that. So I actually got lost for words for that, but you said it for me. So yeah. But cool. Well, thank you so much for having coming on board, boss, and I appreciate your time.
No,
And
thank
this is
you.
actually this is actually a very good episode, and I cannot wait to. I'm going to edit this momentarily. Just just some slight edits. I'm talking about just maximizing the sound and just canceling the background noise and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to upload. I should upload this either within the week, yeah, on YouTube. And once I've done that, I will give you a copy. Yeah. So just before we stop recording, just just stay online so I can tell you what to do next. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. All right.
Well,
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I've seen some of your episodes. Some people I know, some people I don't know. But I'm really happy and pleased that you asked me to do it. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'll see you soon.
yes, I'll see you soon, good sir. Yes, pleasure from my end as well. So yeah, thank you for coming on board. But if you haven't done so, ladies and gents, please press the like and subscribe buttons, and it's going to encourage me to make more videos like this in the long run. Have a good rest of the day, everybody, and stay safe.